Hey guys, you're watching The Slate. Joining us today is Tim Mantil. Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. Great stuff. We've seen a lot of your work. We like a lot of your stuff.
Yeah.
You're an actor?
I am.
Primarily?
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing that? How long have you been acting?
I think since like I was 8 or 9.
Okay.
Wow.
I used to follow my older brother around everywhere, and it would annoy him. It's like the reason why I like Star Wars and everything. I'd always latch onto the things he liked, and acting was his thing. And I like followed him, and he got real mad.
Okay.
But then he ended up leaving acting, and I just stuck with it ever since. And then I've just been made it my own.
Are you from Omaha?
I'm not. I'm actually Canadian.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Hey.
What?
Born Elmont, Ontario, which is about, like a 30, 40-minute drive outside of Ottawa, which is our capital.
Okay.
Don't believe people if they tell you it's Toronto.
Right.
Right. But grew up out there in the country, and then moved to Iowa when I was younger.
All right.
Stuck for college. Met my wife, who is an Iowa native.
Nice.
And then she works in Omaha, and just kind of hung around ever since.
All right.
Oh,
Cool.
solid.
Yeah.
So has acting always been a pursuit then for a career?
Yeah, I think for the most part, yeah. I've dabbled in other things like trying to teach history and all that fun stuff.
Oh,
and
wow.
give it a spin.
Okay.
But acting has always been the go-to. When I was little, I would always, when I thought I was alone, I would turn on like a movie,
Sure.
like the prequel Star Wars movies were like coming out when I was little.
Okay.
So I would always turn on like episode 1, and then I would act along with them. So like
Yeah.
Liam Neeson and
Nice.
Ewan McGregor were my
Nice.
co-stars.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. I love it. I love it.
And then one time I got caught when I think the third one came out, but I was like almost an adult by then. I was like, I need to stop this.
That's awesome.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's a good technique, though.
It is. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
Thank
yeah,
you.
Yeah.
I think it's either, between your brother and this technique, something has served you really well. Because you first popped onto my radar. I think you showed me an episode of Nervous Records, and it's the scene where you approach. Let's see, is it Megan Mills?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, with the drink and hey, I got you a beer, this kind of thing. And oh man, I gotta tell you, man, I was rolling. I still, when I see it, I'm rolling. Your comedic timing, your just your facial, you nailed that vibe. So I was just like, oh wait, who's this? We need to get him involved in some projects. And so actually, a little bit of history about us. We just launched we released our first short film that we made last year, in October, I think it was, late October. This year we're actually in pre-production right now with 2 films out of UNO's advanced screenwriting class. We had a contest there, everybody submitted scripts and we picked 2, that kind of thing. And so there's at least one, I think there are a couple roles that immediately we were both like, oh, we need to get this guy to come in and read for a couple roles, because you represent so well on screen and on camera, man. So I'm not trying to embarrass you or anything, but I just really been looking forward to a chance to talk to you and kind of dig in a little bit. So,
Thank you.
So in terms of you moved from Canada to Iowa, and did you do any acting in Iowa?
I did. Mostly school related.
Okay.
So I did obviously like high school productions. Sure. And then I went to Iowa Western Community College, and that's where I jumped back and forth with. I did teaching there. I got my teaching degree there, and then I went to the University of Northern Iowa, and did a little stint there. And that's when I was like, because at Iowa Western I went and taught, because I was like, yeah, you can't make it as an actor, and then I just couldn't. Like I remember I did like a year of teaching, and I was like, I love history and love teaching and all that. It just wasn't my passion. Sure. And then it was actually the teacher I was working with was like, you go follow your.
Yeah.
So I went to.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then I went to UNI, got back into acting, moved back, and finished off at Iowa Western to get a theater's degree. And then I went to the University of Nebraska, Omaha, and that's where I finished off my bachelor's. And I met all these film people and these stage people, and that's kind of been blowing up ever since.
Nice,
Wow.
nice. Do you have like theater versus film? Do you have a passion for one over the other?
It's like $1 million question, right?
Sure, yeah.
I think film is my favorite. Okay. It's my favorite medium, all the creation. But in that sense, there's also things that like live theater gives you that you don't get from it's that theater high. It's being with everybody.
Oh yeah.
If there's a mess up, you can't call cut.
Right.
Keep going. That's always fun.
Just gotta roll with it.
So yeah, but overall, I think film's my favorite. It's the one I grew up in. Being a country kid up in Canada, I didn't really have very many like theater buildings to go to.
Yeah. Sure.
So I was more or less introduced to live theater when I moved here. Okay. So it's not. I wouldn't say it's a newer passion, but it was more of a newer avenue as I got older.
Nice. And what's the most recent project that you've done?
The most recent project I've worked on is probably Nervous Records. Okay. That's the one that finished, I think, most recently. We finished that September or November, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
So that one was a long time coming because we had I think it's 2 years ago now. Wow, I'm getting old. But 2 years ago, there was a 48-hour film festival. Right. And then Jesse Eastman, the director and writer of it, had brought us together, and we had brought a bunch of us together. We all sat down and came up with a little meeting what we were going to do the 48-hour festival, and that birthed the original Nervous Records. And then he took that, and he's like, I can make something of this, and it became a full-length series, and we buttoned down, and we filmed from like I think August all the way to November, and it was like every weekend, a few days through the week. But yeah,
cool. Yeah, Christian J. Velez was on an earlier episode. I think he was involved in that as well. And was talking about that. Yeah, that
great guy.
It looks really good. I mean, again, that's where I first saw your work, and I was like, oh man, this is great. Yeah, cool. So, Nervous Records. Prior to that, have you done in terms of your film work, shorts, any features? Kind of how's that mix?
Yeah, I've done like mostly shorts.
Okay.
I had done right before, or I guess right after Nervous Records. I had one more. It was there was a director who came up from LA for a proof of concept short film. Oh wow! So that was interesting. It was my first like I don't know, like official different coastal type of atmosphere. That was interesting. It was a lot of crew. It was a great time. I played a youth pastor.
All right, all right.
So that wasn't interesting, but it was a dark comedy, and it was my first time meeting like a real famous person on set.
Sure.
But then it also showed my age because they're like a social media star.
Oh, gotcha.
So it wasn't like they didn't bring in like a movie. It was like social media star. So and like I was like the only one. I'm only like 4 years older than everyone else.
Right.
But I'm like just like the old guy. Like I don't know who you are.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Do you remember who it was?
Her name was Talia. I can't remember her last name, but she was an amazing human being, super cool and super down to earth. But you just see like all these younger filmmaker people were just all like, "Oh my God, tell me all these stories," and I'm just like, "I don't know what Tic Tac is."
Yeah, right. So yeah,
but it was a great time. But yeah, a lot of short films. They ranged the gambit. I did a feature film, which is where I met Jesse.
Okay.
And that was it was called Pig Face. It was a horror film.
Yeah, sure.
We've heard about that circulating.
Nicole Vosser.
Nicole Vosser
involved in that.
Kaden Bly is a thing.
Is that a Fanatic film?
Yeah, because they did the sequel. So I was the original.
Oh, sure. Oh, the original. Phase 2, right.
I was the first one.
Gotcha.
I'm the OG.
I'm the OG. But
I made that happen.
Yeah.
But that was I think it was like one of my first big feature films, and that was done outside of Lincoln on like a remote farm. Some of us were like, okay, we're definitely gonna get murdered out here.
Right? Yeah. It's turned into a documentary or reality thing.
Yeah. But that was my first time meeting Jesse, and then it just kind of turned into a working relationship from there. Good. But getting into that one was interesting. I was actually doing live theater because I hadn't done film in a while because I don't think the world had shut down yet. It was like right before the world shut down for COVID, so that long ago.
Right.
But I was playing Billy Bibbit in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It was
nice.
like the play production.
Good, yeah.
And we had our show night. I had seen they had posted for Pig Face, so I literally recorded like right before going to the show, and I sent it to them, and I was like, we'll do it. I think my wife's just like, yeah, who cares? Just go for it, see what happens.
Yeah.
And then Jesse had gotten a message from Josh. I think it's Wexelman. I can't remember. I'm messing up his last name horribly, but Josh, who's the director of the first Big Face, he had sent me. He's like, hey, you should really look at this. And then when it so happened, Jesse had shown up that night, the day I sent it to see the Cuckoo's Nest. So I met him right afterwards. Like, yeah, we'll take you. I was like, oh, cool.
Nice.
All
Yeah,
right.
excellent. Yeah.
And then it's just been ever since.
That's
Fantastic.
awesome. That's awesome.
What was that experience like shooting that film, the horror film?
It was interesting because it was kind of like the COVID things were coming in, so like no one really knew what was going on.
Right.
So it was a lot of like masking up, and then like it was a lot. It was mostly outdoors, so there was not because nobody knew how intimate you could be yet.
Right.
So it was very closed doors. And yeah, it's horror movies are always interesting to be on because it's very you've got to make it believable while like an 8-foot tall guy with a pig face is chasing you with a chainsaw. So it's definitely not your comedy.
No, definitely not.
But yeah, it was different from all the shows that I was doing at the time. So I was doing a lot of more serious like kind of period pieces, or I was doing a lot of theater at the time. So it was a lot of like I had just gotten done with a show that was about the English annexation of Ireland. So we're doing all that. So you're doing a period piece of where the English are just murdering everybody left and right. And then you go to an insane asylum in Cuckoo's Nest where you're being lobotomized left and right. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, Pigman's chasing you. And it's like, okay, cool.
So that is a lineup right there, yeah.
So in a sense, it was nice to let my hair down, so to say, and just kind of go for it. And you just kind of got to live in the kookiness of it. Otherwise, people are not going to believe it. So.
Yeah. Did you get murdered in the film? Good death scene.
Spoiler.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can.
Let's spoil it, man. Let's spoil it.
I am not in the sequel. I will say that.
Okay, there we go.
Right.
All right.
Awesome.
There we go.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Now we know.
Now and Jesse he's doing The Farm now, right? Is that his film?
I think that's Kate.
Or is that Kate?
Because I'm.
Oh right.
We're doing.
No, that's Kate.
Jesse and I are doing Playing Dead together.
That's the one, yeah.
He brought me. I'm directing it for him.
Oh,
nice.
wow.
I'm moving on to a directorial role, so we're doing that.
Wow.
We're filming that here at the end of the month.
Okay. Can you talk about that project at all?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So Playing Dead follows the life of a man named Jeremy.
Okay.
And he's made his career of playing dead bodies on TV shows,
yes,
so like NCIS, all that type of stuff.
Yes, right.
And he wants his big break, but it's obviously not coming. And so he creates his own documentary, and he has a crew that's following him.
Yeah.
And it just kind of gets more ridiculous, and Jeremy's a guy who takes himself very seriously and his craft very seriously. And he's definitely the guy where if he's walking down the hall and you're like, hey, Jeremy, I like your hair today. And he's like, they hate me. They all hate me.
Right.
So
Nice.
that's and so part of the way through, the camera crew starts to realize, I think we have something here. So they start kind of taking and make their own little. This might be their big break versus Jeremy's big break. So that's kind of what we're playing with.
Ooh,
Whoa.
interesting.
That's such a fun
Nice.
premise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the film's been cast already,
Yeah, it's been
crew
cast, yep.
lined up, everything.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you have a role in the film, or you?
I do.
You
I
do?
am a very
Alright.
small role.
Okay.
I play a man named Troy.
Okay.
In it. So Jesse plays Jeremy, the lead, and he's his sister. I date his sister.
Okay.
So I'm very much upset that Jeremy lives rent-free in my basement.
Right.
And is constantly yelling at us.
That's awesome.
Right.
And he's accusing me of trying to kill him every time I cook food.
Right, nice,
Oh
yeah.
my
You just
gosh.
play dead, man. Just
Right.
stay there, yeah, that's great. And now that you mention, I must have read the synopsis or something. I think I did. Yeah, that's awesome. Who wrote the film?
I believe it was Jesse.
Jesse
Wrote it,
did.
yeah.
Okay, all right. And how big is the cast?
Oh man, it's in main cast, like speaking roles. It's relatively small. I would say it's like 5 or 6.
Oh, okay.
And then there's extras. It blooms up to like 20 or so.
Sure, yeah.
And
yeah.
remind me, is it a feacher or is it a short?
It's a short film.
It's a short.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you feel about directing? Are you excited for it?
I love it.
You love it?
I love it. I had directed plays before,
Oh,
and
gotcha.
so I had done. My biggest one was Romeo and Juliet, which
Nice.
was like
Wow.
a big
Yeah.
thing. And then when we had done Nervous Records, Jesse wanted to split up since there were so many, I think it was like 8 episodes, and he didn't want to burn himself out, so he'd split up. He'd cut up the episodes and trade them off. So I got to do a few episodes. So that was my first my film directing. So that was pretty cool. And then he loved what I did, and he asked me to do Playing Dead.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my gosh, that's
great.
great. Yeah. What are the differences you see between directing projects like Nervous Record and plays?
Honestly, they're not too different from each other. I think the biggest difference is finding a way to make sure that because with a play, obviously you can, in rehearsals, I guess the rehearsal period is one big difference. Right. So the plays, it's a very, I wouldn't say it's a longer commitment, but in some cases it is. Yeah. You definitely you're there from the beginning, and then during, so you can be there from anywhere from, you could have a turnaround like I've done where it's a month of rehearsals. Yeah. And you just go straight into it and you just hope for the best. Yeah. And then, or you can be there for 2 months, 3 months, and then you go for it. And then, and in some cases, with theater, you just clean your hands of it at the end. I know that sounds weird, but as soon as they perform, it's no longer your show. Yeah. It is now in the hands of the actors, the technical crew, the stage manager. And it's a very interesting experience. Right. It's like you're watching your child go off to college. Right. Don't make any mistakes. Right.
Yes, exactly. Take your cues,
And film, it's very much like that. So you almost skip the rehearsal period, and you almost just kind of go straight into, now you're meticulous, and you kind of play with it. And then you hand it off to an editor, and that you're involved with that part as well. To the best you can be without stepping on their toes and making it harder for them. But so it's they similar, but they're also vastly different in the same point. Yeah. I have found though the easiest thing to help with them is obviously, I feel like everybody says it, but being experienced as an actor, and even before acting, I was I did acting, and then completely flubbed it when I was younger, and just never got cast in anything. Okay. And I even got told once that I would never get cast with my Canadian accent. So I got sent back. Wow. I went and took an American accent class so I could sound more American.
Oh wow.
Whoa,
hey.
But my Canadian accent pops up if I ever get an angry voice. So I was doing a show and I had to yell at my son, and then I'm like, "How you pack your bags and go?"
Nice. Wait, what?
So that put me into the technical side of theater. So I was a technical director. I was building sets. I was doing all that stuff, which is where I met my wife. She was doing she was Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors.
Awesome.
So I met her there, and then
great play.
Yeah.
It is a great play. It's a fun play.
Really it is really fun.
Yeah. And then I started jumping back into film and then theater, and then when I went to UNO, it boomed, and I started just doing acting 100%. And finally started getting cast in things, which was nice.
Yeah, there you go.
And so then all
take
that stuff. Take that. But all that stuff I think helps definitely which helped me a lot tackling the differences and the similarities between theater directing and film directing, because it can't be understated. Knowing what the people around you are doing doesn't mean you have to be great at it, but if there's this semblance of understanding, I know that sound needs to be perfect on a film because it could ruin it 100%.
Sure.
I don't know how to go about recording or editing it. I'm that sounds good. Sure. But the fact that that type of stuff, being able to understand it and then making sure that you're plotting out those things. Because it's the same with theater, where you need sound or lighting in a movie. You need those things as well in theater to help with the show. So you need to learn the proper times when to bring those people into the conversation,
right? Yeah,
giving them what they need, and then also how do you move the actors around that? Because I'm an actor, I love actors, but sometimes you need to baby us, so you gotta learn. You gotta learn how, and who would baby an actor better than another actor?
Right.
So you learn how those things move around. So they definitely help.
That's a great advantage too. That you're an actor, because then you can like you said, you direct and you're able to baby actors and really know what to say and how to say it to really get that performance, that exact way they say a line or that exact facial expression to really get what you want. And it's one of those things where I also come from a bit of a theater background, although I haven't done it since like high school. But we would run for competition. We would want to act in state and that kind of thing. But yeah, no, I love the point that you make that there's a lot of components in theater that apply to films, like the lighting, the blocking, the staging. It's just the way we go about it is different. So like it's I mean, unless you're doing like a oneer in a movie, like a one shot, in that way it's really theatrical. But it's really cool how even in the editing room, some of what you see in the edit is what you kind of see in your head when you watch it play. Right. It's like a light dims down. There's like a spotlight on an actor, and you see like in your head you kind of put two and two together. And I think it's a really cool experience. And knowing those people and knowing the people who are in charge of sound, in charge of lighting, the actor, knowing that people have knowledge in their own fields, and that coming together for both projects and both the mediums, I think is really cool, and kudos to you for pointing that out, because I think it goes unrecognized.
Having done theater myself, now my kids are in theater. My son's doing a play now in high school, and I mean they spend the entire semester rehearsing, right? And then Tech Week is a couple weeks away, and they've been at this for months and months and months, and so it's fascinating. I imagine at some point maybe they'll incorporate like a instant replay in the theater, so you get to rewind and do that again.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. I mean, you're I enjoy doing sound design and set building, kind of being behind the scenes stuff. But I did some acting as well, and it's quite an experience when you do it well. When you really connect with an audience, when lines land, when all that kind of stuff lands, it's great. When they don't land, it's it's sweat. I get sweaty, right? You get a little sweaty. So, but I have massive appreciation. I have a lot of appreciation for actors in film as well, but certainly theater acting, the discipline involved there is just tremendous. I think it's So kudos to you for doing all that. Cool. I think you mentioned that, and it reminded me of another significant difference between theater and film in terms of the sets. On theater, you're in a much different space of having to solve problems, like create environments in almost abstract ways and get really creative. One of the things I loved about doing set design and construction in theater is all the different cool ways you get to represent environments and physical things. Whereas in film, obviously depending on the genre, but you're looking for a more literal, like if you're looking for a house, I'm looking for a house, right, kind of thing. And I love that about theater and that aspect of it. So the idea of the theater blacks with waving, all that, and could represent 100 different things, and for the kids obviously, but to put people in that headspace, people. It's almost like that suspension of disbelief that you have to apply to film. In theater, people automatically go into that, and you're like, okay, this represents, the Willy Wonka boat or something floating across or whatever. And it's just a beautiful space when it works well and everybody in the room is in the same moment. That's a fantastic thing. So, I'm kind of harkening back and kind of getting a little nostalgic for my theater stuff.
I want to do some theater. This stage is a really creative space, especially the workshops and all that behind it. You step on there, even for me, when I stepped on, I would just get so many ideas flooding into my brain.
Was it Euphoria? Have you seen Euphoria, the TV show?
Yes.
Yes, that's it. Where they did the play at the end, and they have the turntable and the lockers as she's walking. The lockers spin on the turntable. Oh man, I was just like, I want to go back. I want to go back. That's so fantastic.
And throughout the whole play scene, I was like, what was their budget for that?
More than I was.
They're
high school. What?
They had a person printing money on the background, just like, we need more money.
Literally,
And the turntable scene, that one, I know we watched something about that. I still can't get my head around it when she's walking down the hall. I still can't get my head around.
I think I'm glad you brought Euphoria up, because I think that show in particular really blends both worlds of theatrics and the world of film really closely. Because there's these things that they utilize that you see in plays that would normally probably take you out of a movie, but they incorporate it and it actually immerses you in. Kind of like the at the end of season 1 when Rue relapses and she has a whole chorus, dancing around, it really emphasizes the point they're making. And then beforehand, they have like spotlights of lights, kind of focusing on a character.
Very theatrical stuff.
Like the turntable, like you said. They have the actual placing for it. Then they have, lights flaring and that kind of thing. And I think it does a really good job of blending both worlds together.
And even the production. I mean, they took. So if you look at the behind the scenes, they took a practical approach to a lot of those effects. And kind of, a shout out back to, and I don't remember the film, but to some of the films from the 50s and 60s where they had the technology, or even like Hitchcock did. How am I going to make this camera zoom and they build a rig that practically does it? So I think it's fantastic. I applaud them. Obviously, of course, they have a huge budget, so that helps. But they used it. They didn't go MCU like special effects, visual effects version with it. They went practical. So shout out to them, right? And I am a big horror buff, so I really appreciate practicality on the film set. Cool. So film festival, you were there. We saw you there last night at the after party. That was a good time.
Oh yeah.
What film did you see?
Oh man, I saw their shorts, which were very interesting. It was crazy seeing all of them. Yeah. And then I saw, what was that? I forget the name of the documentary.
Let's see. Last night we had Who Are the Marcuses? We had
Astronaut and the Artist.
Maybe? Astronaut and the Artist.
It was one of the number 83, right? Huskers.
Look Like Somebody.
Look Like Somebody.
Look Like Somebody. Yes.
Yeah,
that was for sure the largest show audience so far for the festival. I think, I don't remember what the head count on it was, but they had.
It was like 150.
Was it? Yeah, because
it was
they were at 110 and people were still coming in. So and obviously that's going to play well in Nebraska and Omaha. Everybody remembers that.
They're Huskers. It's crazy.
Yeah, and having Ricky there in the audience was great.
I was in LA one time, and my Uber driver asked me where I flew in from.
Okay.
And I was like, I flew out of Omaha, Nebraska. And he's like, they really like their Huskers there.
Yeah. We're like, well,
there you go.
Like, never shut up about it.
Right? Yeah. It's funny because for a lot of people, and it's a little embarrassing, that's the claim to fame, right? Although not in your lifetime, right? Sorry, but we've sucked for 20 years. So that's just the way it is. But there was a time when that was definitely, a torch worth carrying. But, and as we've gotten into this, we've talked a lot about the list of creatives in all different disciplines that have come from Omaha. So per capita being, for the size of city we are, not having the critical mass, the audience that places like LA or New York or Atlanta or whatever have, the number of creative people that have come from dance and writing and film and, all the music, all these different things from Omaha is, man, I'm impressed by it. There are a lot of people. This really is a hotbed for creative talent, which is why I think we're experiencing so far so much success with the projects that we're pursuing, because it's just about, dropping a fishing line out in the pond and just reeling people in. There are so many people around, and the festival is another good example of that. So we had, I don't know if you saw last night, there was an aspiring young actor named Warren Buffett who was in attendance.
I heard he was there. I didn't see him.
Yeah, he was there. He was getting a little bit of attention, so I think he must have. Promising career, right?
Yeah.
I think he's got.
Hopefully he makes it in the industry.
Yeah. I wish him well. Good luck. Keep in there. Hang in there. So, but it's fun. So I'm excited to see this weekend what happens. And you mentioned you're going to go back tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any idea what films you're going to see? Or are you going for something specific?
I was thinking of For the Love of Dick.
Okay. Sure.
That's Jesse's, right?
That's Jesse's film, right?
I was a producer on that one. So.
Oh, nice. Hey.
There you
all right.
Nice.
All right.
Theater seats.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing a Q&A afterwards? Do you know?
Knowing Jesse, I'm sure he'll be down there.
Sure.
Man loves his attention.
Okay, we'll have to get some good shots, maybe a little bit. Even if they don't do a Q&A, maybe we can pull you aside and get something on video for you. Put you in front of the step and repeat the red carpet and get some stuff. That'd be
that's
fun.
a feature, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This will be good.
Yeah,
Cool,
that'll be fun.
cool.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to talk? We've talked a lot about some of your projects, things that are going on. Anything you want to give a little shout out or promote? Or
Sure. I mean, if you guys like books, I write books.
Yeah.
If you go I sell on Amazon. My writer's name is T.E. Mantil. So Mantil, because my wife told me that my name is too boring to be an author name. So she's like, do your initials, that'll be cool.
It's got a nice ring to it, man.
Right? I currently have one book published right now called The Noctis Cluster Redeemer. It's far in the future. We talk about sci-fi the entire time.
Absolutely.
So nobody knows what Earth is anymore. Just way down that one of those lines. But it follows two gentlemen that are just trying to make money in a galaxy that is not so nice to everybody. It's very much shoot first, ask questions later. Wow. And one day, as they are delivering cargo, they find out that inside their cargo is a woman who has these abilities to change the space around her and alter these things. So then there's a cult that really wants her back. So these guys that have tried to keep their heads down for so long are now thrust into the middle of a crazy situation. So that one is out now, and in mid to late April, I will have another book coming out called The Icarus Grid Blood Money. And it is a space western. It is a gentleman who is an ex-mercenary who settled down once his wife had a child, and as things happen, it's just him and his daughter. She didn't make it, so he's trying to give her the best life he can. And then things happen that cause him to go back into his mercenary life of crime and everything for your typical Western one last job.
Right.
And he ends up finding himself in the middle of a pull for power, and the blame ends up at his feet. So he is trying to save the one thing he cares about in the entire galaxy, and that is his daughter. And in the process, these very powerful people that want him hire the best bounty hunter in the galaxy, and she puts a target on his back and tries to hunt him down. So it's a very...
I love it.
That's exciting. I love that.
How long is it? So with Redeemer Noctis Chronicles, how long did it take you to write that? How long have you just been writing?
Oh man, it took me, I think, 3 or 4 months to write it. I had sat down. It took longer to actually get it out. It took about 3, possibly 4 months to write. And then I just sat on it forever. I just kind of I would pick at it, and it was helpful. It teaches you sometimes you just got to release things, otherwise you're just gonna pick at it forever. Right. So then I got it all together and got it through the editing process, which was also a new experience for me. That was very much. It's a very much different book than it was when I wrote it a couple years ago. It was much longer too now. But yeah, it was the writing process itself, if I can sit myself down and get rid of distractions, it takes about roughly 3 to 4 months to write a book. Okay. And then, but to get it fully released now that I know what I'm doing, I've taught myself stuff and everything, and I've grown up a little bit, it takes about a year in total to get things going. Okay. But then, but the biggest thing is obviously staggering them out. Right. So you're not releasing everything at once. You want to keep people coming back. Right. And then, because then you run into the issue of you release it, and then it takes a year to write something and get it out, and then people can read it in a weekend, and well, where's the next one? And I'm like, I don't know.
Let it marinate.
So,
awesome. Well, as usual, everybody, if you've watched, you know the drill. Subscribe to the channel. That's a must. Give us a like, follow. Be sure to follow along with Tim. We're very thankful for the time that he's given to come and sit and talk with us. Lots of stuff going on. So we appreciate your time and attention, and we will see you on the next episode of The Slate. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
To donate, scan the QR code and give what you can. We greatly appreciate your support.